See the board, not just the pieces. Ah, so you've come, seeking not just answers, but wisdom. That is good, for it is not answers that free the mind, but the right questions. Let me offer you the first truth. Most people chase pieces. They chase status. They chase applause. They chase the next move that will make them feel powerful, secure, victorious. But in doing so, they are forever trapped within the game. The strategist, the true strategist, sees something else. He sees not the pieces. He sees the board. He does not ask, "What move do I make next?" He asks, "What game am I playing? What is the terrain beneath my feet? What is the shape of the struggle?" To outsmart any challenge, you must begin with clarity, not chaos, with stillness, not speed. When your mind is clear, your perception sharpens. And when you see clearly, your actions become precise. That is the root of strategy, not clever tricks or manipulations, but the art of seeing what others miss. Imagine a forest in the fog. The untrained traveler will stumble forward, eager to escape. He may sprint toward the first light he sees, only to fall into a pit. But the wise traveler, he stands still. He listens, he breathes, he lets his senses open. He waits until the shape of the trees reveal themselves through the mist. Then, and only then, does he begin to walk. So it is with every challenge you face. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young warrior, full of passion, fire in his chest, vengeance in his blood. His father had been dishonored by a rival clan, and the boy swore to strike back. He trained night and day, memorized his opponent's weaknesses, dreamed of the perfect duel. He was preparing for the fight. But the old master who watched him said nothing for many moons. Then, one evening, he spoke. He said, "You are preparing for a sword fight, but the enemy does not carry a blade. He carries influence. He carries law. He carries silence." The boy did not understand, not until his enemy, without raising a weapon, had taken the land from under his feet, cut off his resources, turned allies into strangers, and walked away untouched. The young warrior had prepared for a peace. The master had seen the board. When you focus only on the visible, you fall prey to the hidden. The seen move distracts the mind. The unseen move shapes the outcome. To see the board, you must rise above the moment. This is not something you do once. This is a posture, a discipline, a way of being. You practice it with every choice, every encounter, every temptation to react. You learn to pause. You learn to ask deeper questions. You begin to see connections between things that others dismiss as unrelated. When someone insults you, don't react to the words. Ask why they were spoken. What weakness are they trying to provoke? What insecurity are they trying to mirror? When someone offers you a deal, don't leap at the surface gain. Ask, what is not being said? What will this cost you in energy, in freedom, in time? This is how you begin to see the board. There is a saying in the ancient texts, "The river does not rush toward the mountain, it flows around it, slowly, silently, but it always arrives." Seeing the board means understanding the terrain before making the move. It means resisting the urge to act for the sake of action. Movement is not always progress. Reaction is not always power. Victory is not always success. Now, you may ask, how do I rise above the pieces? How do I train my eyes to see the board? The answer is simple and difficult. You practice distance, not distance from life, but distance from immediacy, from emotional gravity. When a moment pulls you in, you do not dive. You step back, you breathe, you reflect. This is not inaction. This is strategic delay. There is a difference between avoidance and awareness. The one who avoids runs from discomfort. The one who is aware studies the discomfort until it teaches him something new. When the tiger pounces, he does not think only of the prey. He thinks of the terrain. He knows where the ground gives way. He senses the shift in the wind. He calculates the silence before the strike. If the tiger, in all his power, still studies the ground, then so must you. Never be so hungry for results that you forget to observe the ecosystem. Every challenge is not just an obstacle, it is a landscape, a web of causes, effects, emotions, agendas, and momentum. If you do not see it, you cannot move through it. If you do not understand it, you will become part of it, controlled by it, defeated by it. Here is a practice. When you face a situation, whether personal or professional, ask yourself not, "What do I want right now?" but, "What is unfolding here?" Train your mind to see from above, not with arrogance, but with curiosity. Ask, who gains from this conflict? What emotion is being played like a string? What is the pattern behind this moment? Because patterns reveal the board, and the board reveals the true strategy. Most people live in a loop of reactions. They feel, they act, they regret, then they repeat. But the strategist observes, feels, waits, understands, then acts with precision. That is the difference between the warrior and the wise one. The warrior wins battles. The wise one avoids wars that never needed to be fought. There is another truth. Seeing the board is not about manipulation. It is not about being smarter than others. It is about being in harmony with the whole. It is about not fighting the flow of things, but knowing how to move with them, through them, even ahead of them. When a storm comes, the tree with rigid branches breaks. The one that bends with the wind survives. That tree sees the board. That tree lives another season, and so must you. You must become a master not of tactics, but of perception. See the relationships between things. See the sequence before the move. See the long arc behind the short moment. You cannot outsmart chaos by becoming part of it. You can only outsmart it by stepping outside of it, observing its pattern, and choosing your place in the storm. The greatest strategists were not loud. They were not fast. They were not impulsive. They were present, attuned, patient. They moved when the board revealed the opening, not when the ego demanded a move. So listen well. To outsmart any challenge, you must stop looking at just the surface of it. You must learn to walk around it, under it, behind it. You must study not only the challenge, but the shape of the world that gave birth to it. This is the art of seeing the board. And once you see it, truly see it, your actions become elegant, efficient, invisible, because the wisest move is often the one no one notices until it is too late to counter. Let others chase pieces. You see the board? You have come back. That is good. Few return after the first truth is spoken, but the ones who do, they are the ones ready to learn the deeper art. Today, I will speak to you not of movement, but of the silence between movements. We live in an age that is drunk on speed, where slowness is mocked and silence mistaken for ignorance. But let me tell you something they will never whisper in the halls of the hurried. Speed is not strength. Noise is not intelligence. Movement is not mastery. The river that appears still on the surface may be carving canyons beneath, and the hawk that circles the sky without flapping a single wing is already winning. Most people act because they are uncomfortable not acting. They cannot bear the stillness, the waiting, the empty moment. They strike too soon, speak too quickly, decide too early. They confuse movement with power. But movement made too soon is not power. It is panic dressed as bravery. The master strategist is a gardener of time. He does not rush to harvest the fruit while it is still green. He does not tug at the roots of a tree to make it grow faster. He waits, not because he is weak, but because he understands that timing is more powerful than force. Waiting is not passive. It is the most active form of discipline, to wait with awareness, to wait with sharp eyes and sharper mind. That is not laziness. That is strategy. Let me tell you a story. There was a monk once who tended a plum orchard near the edge of the kingdom. Each year merchants came, eager to buy his fruit. But the monk never harvested early. While others picked their crops quickly to beat the market, he sat day after day under the trees, hands folded, watching the sky. They called him foolish, lazy, irresponsible. But when his fruit finally dropped, it was golden, soft with sweetness, full in color. It sold for 10 times the price. The kingdom came to see his fruit as sacred, and he who had waited became the supplier to kings. A young merchant once asked him, "Why do you not hurry, old man?" And the monk replied, "Because the tree is not waiting, it is preparing, so I do the same." You see, child, the power of waiting is not in delay. It is in alignment. It is in knowing when not to act, so that when the moment does come, your action is precise. The hawk does not flap its wings in panic. It circles, it watches, and when the time is right, it does not need to strike twice. There is a rhythm to all things: the breath, the tides, the seasons. Life itself unfolds in waves and patterns. But man, in his arrogance, believes he can force the tide to change by yelling at it. You cannot rush the unfolding. You can only miss your moment by arriving too soon. Sometimes outsmarting the challenge means doing nothing, but doing it with intent. Yes, this is the part where many turn away. Doing nothing, that cannot be strength. That cannot be strategy. That must be surrender. But no, true strength is not found in aggression. It is found in restraint, in the discipline to delay your sword when every muscle in you wants to strike, to sit quietly when every voice demands reaction, to say, "Not yet," when the world screams, "Now." Stillness is not surrender. Stillness is preparation. Let me tell you another truth. Every trap in this world is set for those who rush. The salesman traps the one who cannot wait. The deceiver traps the one who hungers for quick comfort. The enemy traps the one who is too eager to strike. But the one who waits, who watches, he is like water around a stone. He cannot be trapped because he does not push. He absorbs. He flows. And when the moment is ripe, he is already ahead. I once knew a general who won 3 wars without ever drawing his sword. His enemies were bold, loud, restless. They mocked him for staying in camp, for holding back his forces. But he watched, he learned, he let them wear themselves thin, let them grow arrogant. He let the weather change, let the supply chains crumble. Then, like winter falling overnight, he moved, once, swiftly, decisively. His blade touched only the air. The war had already been lost by his enemies before he even arrived. This is what happens when you wait with wisdom. You act at the right moment, not the convenient one, not the emotional one, not the pressured one, the right one. Now, I am not telling you to be idle. I am telling you to be intentional. There is a stillness that is sleep, and a stillness that is surveillance. You must be the latter, still like the mountain, but with eyes that count the clouds. Waiting is not about laziness. It is about leverage. You let the world move, and then you move when the world leans in your direction. If you act too soon, you are rowing against the current. If you wait for the wave, you ride with less effort and go much further. This is the art of stillness, to act less often, but more powerfully. Most people bleed their energy in 10 different directions at once. They speak too often, post too much, chase too many opportunities. They mistake presence for purpose, but purpose is silent. Purpose is patient. Train yourself to hold your move. Discipline yourself to wait, not for permission, but for the alignment of forces. Do not respond to every insult. Do not chase every opportunity. Do not jump at every reward. Your greatest victories will come not from running faster, but from standing so still that your enemy walks past you, unaware. Stillness blinds the impatient. It is better to be underestimated and quiet than loud and misjudged, for while they sleep, you are learning. While they race, you are observing. While they burn out, you are gathering strength. The seed does not shout as it splits the soil, but the oak it becomes cannot be ignored. So what does this mean for your life? It means do not fear delay, fear distraction. Do not fear inactivity, fear unwise activity. Do not fear boredom, fear mindless busyness. Practice waiting, but do not wait aimlessly. Wait with direction. Wait like the archer who holds the arrow steady for minutes before the perfect release. Wait like the sculptor who studies the stone before his first strike. Wait like the lion beneath the tall grass, every muscle ready, but not yet moving. And when your moment comes, you will not miss it. They will say you were lucky, that you moved at the perfect time. But you will know the truth. You didn't move at this perfect time. You waited for it. And that is the power of stillness. Ah, so you return again. That tells me your mind is ripening. You've begun to understand that strength is not always in striking first, nor in speaking loudest. Now, let me give you the third jewel. Inside every strategist, there are two forces. One is stone, the other water. The stone is your foundation, your values, your unshakable truths. These are not negotiable. They are not adjusted by applause or opinion. They are carved from the long journey of inner discipline. They keep your feet on the path when storms pull at your limbs. They keep your word intact when temptations bite like wind. The water? That is your flow, your grace, your movement. It is how you adapt, shift, bend, and move through situations without losing your way. Water never argues with the rock. It simply finds a new path. It never forces. Yet in time, it erodes even the hardest mountains. The art of strategic thinking, child, is the dance between these two. You must think like stone, solid, enduring, clear, but you must move like water, fluid, responsive, unbound. Too much stone, and you become brittle. You crack under pressure. You refuse to change, even when the world changes around you. You confuse stubbornness for strength. You mistake rigidity for righteousness. But too much water, and you dissolve. You have no identity. You flow in every direction but your own. You bend so much, you forget how to stand. Wisdom is found not in being either, but in being both. Let me tell you a tale. There was once a young commander tasked with defending his city against a siege. He came to an old strategist for guidance. The old man pointed to the mountain nearby and said, "Your values must be like that mountain, immovable. But your tactics must be like the river that winds around it, forever changing." The commander nodded, but he was proud. He built walls thick as stone, refused negotiation, stood firm at every challenge. The enemy did not attack directly. They diverted the river feeding the city. Weeks passed, thirst came, then surrender. His values were strong, but he had no flow. Strategy, my student, is not about overpowering life. It is about becoming fluent in life. You must know when to bend, when to yield, when to flow sideways instead of forward, and still never forget the direction you serve, the purpose you stand for. That is the stone in you. The river reaches the sea not by force, but by surrendering shape, never direction. It will curve, it will detour, it will leap and crawl, but it never forgets where it's going. So must you. Let your actions be adaptable, but your purpose unyielding. Let your strategy shift with the moment, but your values remain eternal. This world, as you've already seen, changes faster than most can comprehend. Leaders rise and fall in weeks. Beliefs get packaged and sold as trends. Information spins like leaves in wind. If you try to anchor your identity in things that move, you will drown. Anchor it in what does not move, but do not resist change. Move with it, like a bamboo that sways in the storm, but stands tall when the winds pass. This is not softness. This is mastery. The sage flows around obstacles, but never forgets the mountain he guards. Now, let me give you something to reflect upon. When a fool is criticized, he either attacks or collapses. When the wise are criticized, they listen, they learn, but they do not abandon their truth. That is stone. That is water. A rigid mind cannot evolve, but a formless mind cannot lead. The strategist studies every wave, every shift, every wrinkle in the terrain, but he does not let the terrain define him. He uses its shape, but walks his own line. Flexibility without integrity is chaos. Conviction without humility is blindness. Hold both. That is your task. When an opportunity appears, ask not just, "Can I take it?" but, "Does it match the stone within me?" When a threat comes, do not ask, "Can I fight it?" but, "Can I flow around it and still protect my core?" Water can sneak into cracks, seep into silence, and reach places no blade ever can. Stone can resist pressure, hold weight, and anchor nations. You need both. I once met a man who changed his beliefs every season. He called himself open-minded. But really, he was just unanchored, a leaf on the breeze calling every direction growth. Then I met another man who spoke the same words for 40 years. He said the world had gone mad, but the truth was he had stopped listening. Neither had mastered strategy. One was all water, one was all stone, but the strategist, the true strategist, lives at the edge where water kisses rock. He is rooted, but flowing, steady, but moving. He can adapt to any terrain, but never loses his outline. And that, my student, is not a gift. It is a discipline. It is trained with every decision. When you speak, ask, "Is this rigid because I fear change, or firm because it is true?" When you change your mind, ask, "Am I adapting with wisdom or just dissolving to please others?" Stone keeps you real. Water keeps you relevant. Let me offer you this practice. Each morning, sit in stillness. Ask yourself, what part of me today must remain unshakable? That is your stone. Then ask, what part of me must learn to flow? That is your water. Speak from the stone. Act with the water. When they challenge you, do not react. Respond. That is water. When they try to confuse you, return to what you know is true. That is stone. The strategist knows the goal is not to become so firm that you break or so soft that you vanish, but to become unbreakable through balance. Even the fiercest rivers began as mountain ice. Even the hardest stones were once part of rivers. In this way, the opposites are not enemies. They are partners. Yin and yang, strength and surrender, form and flow. And so, my student, the next time life places a boulder in your path, don't try to smash through it. Instead, become water. Flow around it, over it, beneath it. And if that stone is part of your foundation, if it is truth, principle, honor, then stand by it. Let your enemies drown in noise and panic. Let your allies know you bend, but do not fold. Let the world spin, and you remain the river, flowing home to the sea. The silent war, outsmarting the inner enemy. So, you've come far. Your eyes have begun to look beyond what is seen. You have learned to wait, to flow, to hold fast when the world tugs. But now, the true test begins, not against the world outside you, but against the world within. This is not a battle of armies. It is a war without banners, without maps, and without rest. It is the silent war. The enemy wears many faces: fear, envy, pride, doubt. But do not mistake these as emotions. They are spies, saboteurs, whispering from the shadows, dressed in your own voice. Fear does not scream, it suggests. Envy does not shout, it compares. Pride does not declare, it quietly insists you are above the rules. They are clever, these inner enemies. They know the shape of your dreams. They speak your language, and worst of all, they wait for moments of fatigue, hunger, loneliness, when your clarity is dimmed, when your guard is down. If you would outsmart the world, you must first unmask these enemies within. Otherwise, every strategy you craft will be poisoned at the root. Every victory you chase will collapse beneath your own sabotage. Let me tell you a truth that many never realize until too late. The mind, if left untrained, becomes your greatest betrayer. A man may defeat 10,000 enemies on the battlefield, yet bow to his own anger at home. That man has already lost. The old masters never fought the outside first. Before they stepped onto the battlefield, they meditated for weeks. They cleansed their thoughts. They examined their motives. They emptied their pride. They made silence their sword. Only then could they see reality clearly. Only then were they ready to act without delusion. So now I ask you, who is your real opponent? Not the critic, not the rival, not the chaos outside your door. It is the version of you that reacts, that clings, that panics. Your first enemy is not the world. It is your own mind, out of control. Now listen carefully. There are 3 illusions these inner enemies will use against you. The first is urgency. It says, act now, decide now, speak now. It wraps emotion in false importance. But wisdom is never loud. Truth never rushes. The urgent voice within is not a guide, it is a trap. The second illusion is righteous emotion. It tells you your anger is pure, your fear is justified, your resentment is your strength. But emotion is not truth. It is a storm passing through. If you move by emotion alone, you will chase ghosts and call it destiny. The third illusion is identity addiction. It says, this is who I am. This is what I do. It keeps you locked in patterns, afraid to adapt, unable to evolve. Ego wants consistency, even when that consistency is failure. To win the silent war, you must do what very few have the courage to do: Look in the mirror not to affirm yourself, but to question yourself. That is the blade of the monk, not judgment, but examination. I once knew a warrior who feared no sword, no man, no beast. But he could not sit alone in silence for more than an hour. His mind attacked him worse than any enemy ever had. His victories meant nothing, for at night he could not rest. His regrets were louder than any applause. You must build inner silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of strength. Stillness that can hear every lie the mind tries to speak, that can sit with fear and not become it, that can look at jealousy and say, "You are not me." That is strategy. That is power. Now, you may ask, how do I fight these inner enemies? Do not fight. Observe. The inner war is not won with force, but with clarity. Sit with your anger, watch it rise, do not speak, do not move, just watch. Like mist, it will lift. Like fire, it will burn out if not fed. Sit with your fear, feel its claws, but do not run. Let it show you its tricks. See how it feeds on imagination, how it steals from the future and sells you panic in the present. Sit with your ego. Watch how it wants credit, wants revenge, wants applause. It is not evil. It is only loud. And when you stop listening, it falls quiet. The monk's mind is not silent because he has no emotion. It is silent because he knows what not to follow. Train yourself like this. When emotion rises, wait. When desire burns, wait. When judgment screams, wait. Time is the great revealer. If something is false, it crumbles in stillness. If it is true, it will remain. Silence is your test. Do not speak to prove your value. Speak to deliver value. Do not act to win attention. Act to express intention. Do not think to feel clever. Think to feel clear. There is a moment always before you react, a window, a breath. In that breath, you are free. Free to choose wisdom over impulse, silence over drama, precision over panic. This is how the inner war is won, not with a single blow, but with 1,000 breaths of awareness. And let me say this, you will lose sometimes. You will fall to anger, to fear, to pride. That does not mean the war is lost. It means you are learning where the enemy still lives. Each defeat shows you a shadow. Name it, study it, befriend it. It has something to teach. For every shadow you expose is one less enemy hidden. You do not need to become perfect. You need to become aware. The difference between the master and the novice is not that the master has no emotion. It is that the master is not ruled by emotion. He knows anger is a weather system, not a compass. Fear is a signal, not a sentence. Ego is a child, not a captain. And so, he listens to them, but he does not serve them. Outsmarting the outer world begins by unmasking your inner patterns. Before you conquer the castle, you must clear the cave within. Many seek status, victory, fame, thinking these things will quiet the inner noise. But it is the silence within that makes those things unnecessary. That is the true freedom. And what is the sign that you are winning the silent war? You respond more and react less. You choose direction, not just motion. You seek truth, not validation. And when the enemy strikes from outside, you smile, because the real enemy was never out there. It was here, in your own house, and you have swept the floors. So now take this teaching and sit with it. Do not race ahead. Build a mind that listens before it answers. Build a self that doubts before it declares. And when the world shouts, "Fight me," you will smile, not because you are weak, but because you have already won the greater war. You are no longer your own enemy, And that is when strategy becomes wisdom. That is when life becomes art. The final move, disappear without losing. This is where the path brings you, not to a throne, not to a battlefield littered with your enemies, but to silence, to air that holds no need for applause, to a kind of power so complete it no longer needs to prove itself. You have learned to see the board. You have waited when others rushed. You have flowed like water, stood like stone. You have conquered the battlefield within. Now, the final move, the one that no master teaches first because it is the hardest to accept. Sometimes the wisest move is to walk away, not out of fear, not out of failure, but because the game itself is no longer worthy of your presence. The strategist who cannot leave the board becomes a prisoner to it. The warrior who cannot put down the sword eventually cuts himself. And the mind that always seeks to win will never find peace. There comes a time when you must outgrow not just your enemies, but the entire game. The final move is not a strike. It is a vanishing. It is when you leave the battlefield, not because you lost, but because you saw something larger than victory. You saw freedom. The highest level of strategic thinking is transcendence. It is knowing not only how to win, but when the win is no longer worth your life force. Let me tell you a story. There once was a monk who had trained in every art of war. His name was spoken with respect from mountaintops to markets. His skill was unmatched. He had never lost. One day, a young warrior challenged him to a duel in the village square. The monk bowed and refused. People laughed. "He is afraid," they said. But the monk simply said, "The moment I accept his challenge, I enter his world. That is not a duel. That is a trap." The young warrior mocked him every day for a week, threw stones at his home, shouted insults in the street, and still the monk swept his path, tended the garden, sat in silence. Years passed. The young warrior gained no peace from his victory by insult. Eventually, he traveled to the mountains and asked the monk, "How did you endure the humiliation?" The monk smiled. "I did not enter your battle," he said, "so I never carried its weight." This is the way of the final move. The sage walks away not because he is weak, but because he is free. To remain is sometimes to trap yourself in an illusion that every challenge must be faced, every insult answered, every throne claimed. But that is the ego's hunger, not the spirit's wisdom. The greatest trap in the art of strategy is not failure. It is the addiction to being seen winning. So what does it mean to disappear without losing? It means letting go of the need to prove. It means choosing peace over pride. It means understanding that not every opponent is worth your energy, not every noise is worth your voice. When someone throws dirt at your name, they are dirtying their own hands. Let them. When power plays invite you in, smile, and let the board remain empty. When they bait you with praise or insult, with gold or threat, know this: the bait only works on the hungry. If your spirit is full, you do not bite. That is the ultimate checkmate, not a defeat of the other, but a mastery of self so complete their move no longer matters. Some may say, "But if I walk away, they win." To which I say, win what? A crown made of noise? A battle that steals your sleep? A war that stains your peace? Let them think they've won. Let them celebrate shadows. Your path is no longer theirs to understand. There is a wisdom that bends the rules, not out of rebellion, but because it sees a higher game. There is a freedom that needs no trophy, because its joy is already complete. When others try to pull you back into the small games of dominance, of reaction, of being seen, bow gently and disappear. Disappear not from the world, but from the need to impress it. Disappear from the room where arguments echo, from the table where gossip is served, from the throne that costs your soul. You will still be here, but you will be elsewhere, inwardly sovereign. To walk away from battle is not weakness, it is mastery, if your spirit remains undefeated. This is the paradox. The more powerful your silence, the louder your presence becomes. The more invisible your ego, the more undeniable your light. And the less you need to win, the more you win what truly matters. You win clarity, you win self-respect, you win time, you win peace, and no one can steal that. You see, to outsmart any challenge, you must stop seeing life as a challenge at all. You must see it as a rhythm, a wave to be danced with, not conquered, a mountain to be walked in awe, not climbed for status, a poem to be read slowly, not a battle to be won quickly. And sometimes the wisest verse in that poem is silence. Let others exhaust themselves chasing noise. You will have already won, because you are not chasing, not proving, not performing. You are free. Let this be your final teaching. The monk's last strategy is not to outthink or outfight or outmaneuver. It is to outgrow. Outgrow the bait of pride, outgrow the pull of reaction, outgrow the illusion that every game must be played, and then, like mist rising from the lake, like shadow receding at dawn, you disappear, not from life, but from its illusions, not from the world, but from its traps. And in that quiet retreat, you gain everything that matters. So if one day they say, "He walked away," let them never know that in that walk you were not retreating. You were ascending